Hello! In 2006 I decided to cycle from Hong Kong, where I had lived for years, back to England. It was April, really hot, and I was not going very fast. I had ridden across the Pearl River Delta as far as Zhaoqing. Up till now I had been riding on my own. I absolutely loved it. I chose my own route, could look at every small thing and talk to people whom I met. Last night I ended up on a gorgeous single track lane going through banana trees, past fish ponds. I couldn't quite believe it was right, but I thought, well, I'll just carry on. I'm having a fantastic time. But now, for a couple of days, I was going to have company. I was joined by a van full of friends from a Hong Kong cycling club. They had driven up overnight. Over the years, I had joined them for loads of great trips. They are super people. We always ate well. Eating was serious stuff. They were going to ride with me a couple of days on a last send-off. They had even brought one of my best friends with them as a surprise. So lovely of them. And they had brought a couple of things I needed. They handed them over. I thought, oh God, this was my absolute last chance for spares. Up till now, I had ridden in flat and river-threaded lowlands, steamy hot, and full of signs of long contact with the West, like these buildings in a town and these gorgeous windows in a village. Now we were going to ride up into much higher land, going on little roads into hills that quickly rose to 1,000 metres above sea level. The club is a really well-organised group. Someone else had planned a good route. So on this leg, that would end in the city of Wuzhou, I had to sort of let go control and follow the group. It was very different from being alone. We set off into the hills, with villages scattered along the road. There were banana trees and lush vegetation and red soil. The delta had been hot and windy. Here in the hills it was cool and still. We rode with our jackets on. There were nice settlements with old brick houses, and some had lovely decorations on the roof. And there were beautiful hamlets of orange mud with fantastic pattern ridge tiles and dragons across the roof. It was very different up here compared to the lowlands. Gone was the borrowed European architecture that I had seen down there. No pediments up here. It was intriguing to see old communal buildings like this old village school where the village boys must have studied. It's in the middle of nowhere up here. But the school's actually really similar to quite smart old school buildings down in the lowlands. Its name means something like Heaven Help Us Pass the Exams School. Then I caught sight of buildings like this, which did have European style architecture. It all makes you really want to know the stories of the people who lived here. We spent a chilly night at a mountain hotel. There was no one else there except us, and the heating was off. I remember the rice bowls were icy cold. The next day was grey and even colder. The fields were full of people looking after the rice crop. Here in the hills, for us, it was peaceful, misty, still, with bamboo and pine and water. It had been so hot down in the Delta, and I actually really liked it. I like riding along in my jacket feeling cosy when it's cool. In the villages, my friends handed out sweets and the whole community clustered round. I thought it was lovely. I couldn't do things like this alone. It was so different cycling as a group with friends on effectively a short trip compared to riding long distances alone. I mean, you could never take sweets with you 6 months across the world. We had lunch at an eating house overlooking the river He, ordering heaps of food: sweet potato leaves with garlic, steamed tofu, fish from the river outside, braised with pickled herbs and soy sauce, and loads of bowls of rice. When you eat Chinese food in a group, you get to try like a dozen dishes in a single meal. Alone, even if you are super hungry, you do just order one. The little towns were actually not that nice, just kind of dirty and a bit sad, grim buildings and people just hanging around. But the road along the river was absolutely gorgeous, with brilliant views. In the paddy fields, if you stood and watched, you could see that people were taking the little seedlings from the dark green nursery fields and then planting them out, spread out in the paddies. It was absolutely gorgeous. I just looked down and thought, I am so happy. I never want this ride to end. It was really interesting seeing how people were living. The village houses were beautifully decorated. I mean, look at all the little details like brushwood to make your fences, and you hang your clothes on bamboo poles, and by the door you've got straw hats and little hen coops made from cane. I mean, it was just incredible to me that all this was just a few days' ride from Hong Kong. And it was so nice to enjoy it with my friends. Back down at the West River, we passed this gigantic sign that marked the provincial border. This was the end of Guangdong province, and it was the end of our ride together. We arrived at Wuzhou, where we would rest and eat and play with the locals. And the next day we had breakfast, we took a last photo, and then my friends packed their van and disappeared. And I felt so alone. I thought kind of, wow, now I am not going to see anyone I know now between here and, well, the end of China at least. All on my own again. I felt kind of vulnerable, and I sort of gripped my bag to myself as if it might kind of disappear, and walked through the streets to try and buy a map actually, and had coffee at McDonald's just to cheer up. It was a really nice town actually. I really liked Guangdong. It felt like a happy place. The architecture really reminded me of Macau and old bits of Hong Kong, and Jiangmen, another river town that I'd seen a few days before. Guangdong was a big trading port actually, really closely linked to Canton, and it's got this special type of buildings that are typical of this region with little European touches, like I'd seen from my start in Hong Kong to here. But this would be the last place that I would see them. Time to travel on. It had been lovely riding with my friends, but now I was going to ride on alone. I bought some peanut honey biscuits and I set off.